a couple of weeks ago after I found Veezoo online, and they were touting their semantic layer offering, and I inquired to find out if it was really semantic, and found out under the hood it is in fact. And so got a great demo. Excited to bring him along today. He's the CTO and co-founder of Veezoo self-service analytics solution that empowers anyone to get answers from data with the use of generative AI and knowledge graphs. Originally from Rio de Janeiro, he moved to Zurich, Switzerland to study computer science at ETH Zurich with a focus on natural language processing. Prior to founding Veezoo, he worked in open domain question answering systems using knowledge graphs. Today, Veezoo has answered over 3 million questions from thousands of users in large corporations like AXA, Belize, and Valora. So with that, I'm going to hand it over. JP, if there's questions along the way and folks raise their hands, do you want me to just sort of let you know there's a question, or do you think you'll be able to see those and answer them, or how do you want to handle that?
I mean, feel free to raise my attention. Maybe I'll not be able to see when I share my screen very well.
Yep.
So
Yep. I'll keep an eye and you can decide if you want to answer them right then or later. So go
perfect.
ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, JT. Let me actually share my screen already. Entire screen. Okay. Good. Can you see?
Yep. That looks great.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for the opportunity to present here for all of you. So today I'm going to be talking a bit about what we're doing with Veezoo, how we see, the landscape and the BI space, analytics space changing with AI and also with knowledge graphs, and show you the product. I don't want to make this sales pitch, but I have those slides. I'm gonna go through them, and then we're gonna dive deep into the product, and we can explore it together and answer any kind of questions you may have. So briefly about myself and the company. So our mission is to democratize data-driven decisions using AI and knowledge graphs. I'm one of the co-founders, originally from Brazil, as JT already mentioned. At ETH, from the research, we publish papers on question answering systems, on semi-structured tables, but also on question answering systems using knowledge graphs. Based on that research, we founded Veezoo, and we were selected among different um, consultant and research companies as one of the most innovative new products out there for analytics. And so what I like to start with is how we perceive business intelligence is, well, it's all about answering questions using data, right? In simple terms. But even if that's the case, then why do all BI tools look like this, right? So that's Tableau. You can put something in columns, something in rows. You have your flattened view of the world there on the sidebar, and you can see the visualizations there. And pretty much all tools out there, they look in one form or another similar to that, showing a flat view of the world, showing you drag and drop, and then you can create your charts. And what we've seen over time is that this whole idea about data democratization based on the idea of dashboards led to actually a big failure. Everyone gets a dashboard, and that's like the current state of companies is this. Well, data is already in silos, and then you have dashboards that are already not well maintained, and business users, they're looking to find the right dashboard instead of asking their questions. And fundamentally, it requires a different way of thinking. Data democratization should not be about finding the right dashboards or knowing how to use dashboards, right? You need to be able to bridge the gap between the language of the business and the language of data. And so, and how you do that in our perspective is, well, you're going to use tools. You're going to use a different way of encoding that information with knowledge graphs. And on the other hand, you will have intelligent systems that will help understanding the questions, understanding the business domain based on AI. So here over time, that's how we see BI goes every 10 years, every 10 years or so through major shifts. You had the first wave there with monolithic BI stacks, where the tools would do everything. Cognos, business objects, you have cubes as the underlying data representation. Then you moved more self-service, departmental, so more fragmented. Power BI, Tableau, Click, and then they had all their own data engines there. And then there was the third wave, more recent one, moving to the cloud with cloud data warehouses and the first versions of semantic layer. Well, first version of semantic layer. That's not very fair. Another iteration on the idea of semantic layers with Looker. And what we are seeing now, especially after the whole ChatGPT moment and the improve in the development of AI, is that there will be a new wave which will be based on AI native solutions. And for that, to power that and to really capture the semantics of the business, the idea of knowledge graphs will be central to it, right? Where you have to shift the way of thinking instead of just like, well, set tables. You actually have business concepts where you have, identifiable, right, URIs for the entities and so on. So this is a paradigm shift from thinking about centralized insights where the whole organization, these are just viewers or consumers, to data democratization where you have really self-service analytics for operational decisions, from business viewing dashboards, business users viewing dashboards, so business users asking questions, and then the focus becomes on asking the right questions and learning how to interpret the answers, right, instead of how to use a specific tool. From the data team, instead of working on creating dashboards and new data models there just to answer specific questions. So actually, well, you should be focusing on building a semantic model of the business, integrating it, representing that truth in one core model. And instead of the generic reporting where pretty much these BI tools are like PowerPoints for data or Word for data, you'll have more intelligent systems that are fine-tuned to your business and data and will learn from your domain and actively help you with data-driven decisions. So Veezoo comes out of those ideas and paradigms shifts, and we have two major pillars. One is the intelligent, what we call this intelligent UX for analytics, where you can ask questions, interact with data. And on the other side, we have the knowledge graph, which is under the hood is RDF based with a triple store. Behind the scenes is more like a metadata. I'll show you more about it. And it's supposed to model the semantics of the business. Now let's get to the fun part. Let's take a look at the product, and dive deep into it. So, 1 second. Oops. Nope. Okay. Good. So I'm gonna sign up for a new account. Um, so we have a cloud hosted solution. And when you connect to it, you can choose from one of our demo data sets. I really like the UFO demo. And otherwise, you can also connect to an existing data warehouse or things like Trino as well, which allows you to connect to multiple data sources. We don't copy your data, right? So our knowledge graph is more about the metadata, allowing you to query different systems. So I'll go with the with the even if you have all these connectors, let's go with the Excel. And I'm gonna create a new uh, knowledge graph. I'm gonna call it Hyperstore. We support different languages: English, German, French, Italian, and Portuguese. And I'm gonna upload an Excel file for it. So the first thing that Veezoo is doing, right? I mean, in this case, we're actually uploading it. It's a simple retail or e-commerce case. We have customers, we have orders, and we have products. And we're going to put it together. And what Veezoo is trying to do now is trying to understand it. It has ontologies behind the scenes, so it's trying to link those tables and concepts to a more semantic representation of it. And now it's done, and we are now inside tool, right? So now you can already see the knowledge graph, right? So, well, that was a bit too fast. So when you're here, you come in, Veezoo, you see there's this conversational interface. You can type your questions down here. There are some suggestions over here. And then it also shows you a preview of one of the tables. And if you want to see what data is there, you can see a a graphical or representation of that data. And you see it already understood certain things like, well, customer, well, that's a customer. We have here the dates, there's some monetary information there, some geographical information, and it's connected, so it was able to, from an Excel sheet which has no foreign keys, was able to determine that actually orders connected to customer and orders connected to product, right? I can add descriptions, I can see individual values, right? Can see more information about it, right? So it knows there is a representation for accessories, appliances in the knowledge graph, right? So then let's start asking some questions. So, um, so when you start typing, right? So if we see how much profit, you see, the autocomplete helps you formulate, helps you explore the graph and see how things are connected. So how much profit did we make this year in New York, right? So it also helps you disambiguate. So New York could have been the state or the city. You can go with the state. And let's go with segment. I see that there are corporate segments. So I'll just go with segment corporate. Right, so this year we understood the question here, total profit in state of New York with a customer on the segment corporate in 2023, and we made $6,848. Right, and if I'm a technical user, I can also take a look at the SQL query behind what's being generated. And here you see a breakdown. And you can see also it suggests you how to continue your exploration. So you can see, for instance, compare with 2022 to date, so that I get it up until the current day when I'm doing the comparison. So now it already shows me we grew by 80%, almost 80%. It breaks down by month, right? If I want, I can just say maybe let me take a look per category. Or actually, before that, let's say, right, if you're inside a company, maybe you have a different terminology for category, right? Maybe you call category also just CAT, and well, category, um, category one of furniture, just as an example, description, office, right? And the cool thing now is that if I say, let's say per category, right? So just typing cat actually will already work. I can see the definition here. So it really helps with data literacy, knowing what are these things. I can just say per cat, and it will actually understand it to be the actual category, right? As it understood here, can verify it. That's exactly what it's supposed to do, and it changes the visualization, right? Can ask more complicated question. I want to do one example here, which I like, which is about if you're a marketing person, maybe you want to see, uh, show me all clients with no order in the last 12 months and with a birthday next week. Oh, we just have one. So that's the lucky one. It's going to be contacted by our marketing team. So I can see more information about Brian here. And this is, like as important to understand, right? So first, right, I didn't have to remodel things. Just the way was it understood it as customers without an order in the last 12 months. Birth date knows, well, we had the birth date, right? It understood that birth date when we imported it. It understood the birth date. It's not just a date, it's actually when the person was born. So there's semantics behind it, which means I can ask about the birthday. And this means a birthday next week. It's not that the person is going to be born next week, right? Obviously, it's basically that if you would project this date to this year, it would fall to next week. So all of this happens behind the scenes without me having to remodel things, add a new column to do this or to do that. All happens in the background. And the fact that I have birthday, I can also ask, what is
Yeah.
the age? Oops,
Sorry, keep going.
customers. Right. You can also ask about the age distribution, right? Because we have birth date. And with the birth date, I can calculate the age, right? So the age is based on the birth date. So all of this happens behind the scenes, and I can see here how many we have from each one. So, and if I want to teach even more, I could say, for instance, let me show me all. Let's take a look. Orders. We have a profit below zero. Or maybe we can do something a bit more interesting. Let's see if that works. Oh, let's see if that works. Customers. I've never tried this one. I'm just actually curious. Yeah, no, I didn't actually understand, right? So if it's not in the knowledge graph, it will tell you, okay, this term is not there, right? Sometimes it will try to derive it. In this case here, let's say we have orders with a profit below zero, and I want to extend the knowledge graph. I can say, well, let's say when I say bad order, I want to use that definition. So show me all bad orders, right? It will now be based on that definition. So it's already here. You can take a look at the definition here. It's the same, profit below zero. I can see the percentage of bad orders. And I can, if I want, I can define this as a KPI, as a measure, and just build on top of all these definitions as knowledge is composable. So I can continue per month and segment last year. Right, so now I see this. So it's very easy to teach it and bring more knowledge. And every time I do these definitions, uh, let's take an example of what's happening behind the scenes. You can take a look at it in Studio. And in Studio, you have a version controlled configuration as code representation of the knowledge graph. So you see here we have, right, we don't talk about tables and columns, we talk about classes. There is an ontology behind. I can link to it. So this order that we have here is actually, connected to the order in the ontology. I have IDs, I have profit, revenue, region, the customer, and all of this gets, it's version control. So I can change it here. So I can, if I the ones that I defined. Let's see the bad order. So bad order is defined here. It reuses the concept of profit. And if I go to customer, you can see here the birth date was also recognized to be actual birth date. And this is our syntax. We call it VKL, Visual Knowledge Language, but it's pretty much just a serialization of RDF. So everything behind the scenes is represented as the triples. And yeah, and I think you even have an RDF around. So there are certain things that you can still use from the ontology there. Yeah, so that's pretty much the idea. You can create app branches and develop further the knowledge graph in a safe way. When you merge it, you can make sure that you're not breaking any existing widget. So it's a full powered business intelligence solution for this new wave of innovation. And of course, right, you can still create your own dashboards. So that's we don't say that dashboards are completely useless. No, they're not. But we are very addicted to dashboards, and we think it's all about dashboards, where in fact it's actually about getting answers from data. So just as an example, just adding all of this to my dashboard. And now I can see it, everything here. Oops. And put this one here. I'll save it. Right, I can always access it over here. Oops. And if I want, I can also just follow up on it and just say New York versus California. So since it's just a collection of questions, it will just understand it and show me broken down by it, right? And I can have the whole history here and just go back and forth, continue from any point. So that's the demo. I just wanted to quickly show you an example of a knowledge graph from a customer of ours. So this one is they're in the e-commerce space. So it's actually quite interesting to see how it expanded. Today is even bigger. So this was a couple of months ago, but you have information about customers, you have about the orders, the shippings, the fulfillments, the markets, regions, products, promotions, marketing metrics, NPS, traffic acquisition, brand awareness. Now they also have the bundles and which products are part of which bundles, and it's quite uh, quite beautiful to see the connections, and you can really explore everything as one. So it's really built on this idea of integrated data, right? And not in silos. Yeah, so Veezoo has answered over 3 million questions with top users asking at least 300 questions per month. And we have over 2,500 actually monthly active recurring users. So that's a brief overview of Veezoo, right? I mean, if you have questions, I see there's already one. So why did you feel the need to develop yet another JSON-like serialization of triple data when we have YAML, JSON, JSON-LD, and a myriad of other RDF serializations as well as EDN? Yeah, that's a great question, right? We actually, we started first with just displaying Turtle, which I like it. We still use a lot. So why did we do that? Yeah. So what we noticed is that I mean every one of these um, serializations they have their pros and cons, right? We wanted to make sure we would offer the best kind of experience and also bridging the gap with the people that didn't they're not from this triple store RDF world. So our users, they don't even know that there is actually an RDF representation behind the scenes. So we wanted to make sure that it worked with their environment. We got a lot of inspired by Looker and LookerMail, so we built something that was closer to that. Was it a great experience? Was it a great idea? I don't know. I feel like it created a lot of control for us on building, shaping the user experience. I feel like YAML has a lot of advantages, being very well known, but at the same time it becomes a bit more verbose if you want to provide, and you don't have types, and you need more interpretation there. So we decided to create our own. PwC in 2009, we saw the problems with BI as something that could be solved with the help of a semantic web. Later knowledge graphs, 14 years later, we're seeing the vision realized. Yeah, we feel the same way. Can you share where the real world knowledge, the birthday repeats every year, comes from? Yeah, so a lot of it is based on right. So it's a combination. There are things that help just the AI write the right queries, right? So that we have those semantic information, we can be more certain about certain things. But at the same time, we also offer you the possibility to define functions based on the types, right? So you can say, hey, age, or age needs to take a date. Cannot be just like some kind of a date, right? And you can compute it like that, right? So you can add certain constraints, and I mean I can quickly show you that you can also define functions. Let me give you one example. This one maybe not right. This is an example of correlation. This one is a bit more lower level, so you can just take any kind of number, but you could have defined other kinds of arguments here. And then you can also write your own SQL select statement here, right? And it could be more involved. You can even use other things in your knowledge graph to compute it. But once I have this defined, right, I can define it, and I can use it as well here, right? Correlation off, and it already appears here, and you get the sales and profit. Let's see if so this one 0.48. So it's just because I've actually defined this function, and the same idea, right, that you can build on top of functions and have the the constraints there. How do you parse your query language? Is it some LLM language understanding or some structure parsing approach? We have a combination of them. We have, on one hand, we have a semantic parsing approach that does not use language models, so it's super fast and it's very cheap to run. That doesn't require a GPU. And also it's machine learning based, so it has a confidence. If you ask a question, it will try to use that first. And if it feels like, wait, I haven't fully, I cannot fully understand. There's maybe some terms that I didn't understand there. Then we have the system two, which is based on LLMs, and then it tries to understand it, in a more common sense reasoning approach, right? So yeah, so that's the case. If I say, show me all orders. If you say show me all, let's take a look. One example maybe. What would be young customers? Well, in this case, just put the age there, because it knows a bit about young. But yeah, so there, depending on the kind of question that you ask, if it's a bit outside of what is in the knowledge graph, then it will try to figure something out. Show me all customers that are, let's see if I can trigger it. Hope. Let's see, just tried millennial before, didn't understand. No, so it put here some kind of a range. I don't know if that's the correct the between 55 and 74, right? That's a definition, and you can save that if you want, if you think that's the right definition. And that's like the system tree, where it's trying to understand what is boomer. I don't really understand, even I don't know myself, but just as an example. Um, yeah. Any other questions?
There's another one.
Yeah, in the examples you have the underlying data is relation is query of SQL. You have examples where the underlying data is in a triple store and queried with Sparkle. Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually how we started. We first we were just working with Sparkle, and then we noticed that most of the systems that we wanted to integrate with were actually speaking SQL, and then we had to focus more on that. So currently, we don't have a Sparkle integration, right? So yeah, so that's the short answer, I'd say. Yeah.
One question when I know you said, and I fully agree, dashboards aren't the end game, but if you had a business user that wanted to come on and look at a dashboard, but you were concerned that they're clicking and they're changing and things like that can cause some problems. I think you mentioned some version control, but are there ways to give users maybe levels of access or someone can get in and play around without potentially causing problems?
Yeah, so as a business user, right, you cannot just define anything, right? You're not allowed to create the definitions. We also you can also implement, for instance, let's say birth date. Maybe not everyone sh- is should be allowed to see birth date, maybe for GDPR, I don't know, or for whatever reason. So you can have user roles, and you can say, hey, well, this one only these people can see. Other ones could see, for instance, age, pre-aggregated age. That should be fine. So you can have these different kind of column level security or concept level security. Also on the data side, right? You could also, yeah, determine who gets to have access to this knowledge graph. Yeah.
Well, there's another one that just dropped in the chat. Here we go in reverse order. Chris first. Does the AI sometimes create functions or do people always do that?
So does the well, yeah. So the right, in this case, it came up with some kind of definition, which I can then, that was completely defined by the AI, and then I could use that to just save it. The functions that are here, they're also, well, the one that I created here, I did it by myself. Many times people just choose to do this by themselves there to make sure that they have the right logic and they already have the idea of what they want to model there. Yeah,
Oh,
like the correlation example. Yeah.
cool. Then Alan asked, are we making progress with SQL extensions to bridge the gap between SQL and Sparkle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's certainly a lot of SQL queries that we cannot, or basically a lot of questions that involve more the graph approach, right? That gets still hard to generate the right SQL for it. There's something that we will explore further with SQL extensions. And if you do have the cool thing about Veezoo and the flexibility of it is if you do have an extension, a package, or your own UDFs defined in the database, you can make them accessible to Veezoo. If it's maybe like a Python UDF, a lot of times you can define those things in your data warehouse. You can make it accessible to Veezoo by adding it to the knowledge graph. And then you can unlock this. You don't have to depend on us to develop those functionalities.
Hmm. So what's next? You kind of mentioned things you're working on development. What do you sort of see over the next maybe 3 to 6 months?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's very exciting times for us. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can now do that we couldn't do before with how technology is developing in answering more vague questions. So if you just say, well, show me customers that are doing, some unusual activities, right? And maybe you don't really know what unusual activity is, then you can use those systems to try to understand that and answer more vague questions. That's something that we're actively working on. We're working on in extending the modeling capabilities of Veezoo, and that you can also interact more with an AI and say, hey, well, I want to define that, and that you can change things with this interaction, and we're using the questions that are asked to the user by the users. We have MetaVizu, which allows you as an organization to see all questions that were asked, right? So this comes pre-packaged in Vizu. You can see all questions asked by users, to how long it took to answer those questions, the queries that were generated. If there was a concept that was not recognized, I see them all here. Here we have it. There's a bit of a delay, but you can see here it has some of the questions that I asked today already, with the SQL queries, and then using that, right, by the AI to say, hey, well, people have been asking about average order value and that there doesn't have a clear definition yet. Maybe you want to add this to your knowledge graph, right, so that you don't need to just trust the AI to come up with the right definition. So these things are coming. And one other area that we're excited about is to opening up the access to our knowledge graph to other tools, right? Over a SQL interface or over the API calls, so that you can, one idea being, you ask questions here and you want to take it to your Python notebook or to your Google Sheets, and have it access the up-to-date understanding of that. Not that it's a SQL query that suddenly does not work anymore, but it's managed because it uses the knowledge graph concepts. Or that you're in Tableau or in a different dashboarding tool and you're using the definitions that were created in Veezoo in other tools. So that makes it really universal within the company. Yeah, so we have an open, as you've seen, I just went to a website and signed up. If you're interested in trying it out and finding a bit more, you can also come to our website, create an account, give it a try. And if you have any feedback, happy to hear.
Any other questions, thoughts before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you, JP, for the demo. This is fantastic. I put the link to both Veezoo and your LinkedIn profile in the chat there if folks want to connect that way. If you've got any materials that you want to share to everybody, a deck or anything like that, if you want to send them over to me today, I'll send the recording of this out later today, and I can include those with that for the people that weren't able to make the call directly as well. So we can take it from there. So thank you very much for joining in your evening time, and let everyone go. Happy holidays and happy new year, and we'll see everybody first Thursday of January.
Thanks, JP. That was really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, JT, for setting it up.
Yep.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.